Hello and welcome to the 28th Annual Get Lit Festival. I'm Kate Peterson, Director of Get Lit Programs, a nonprofit organization housed within Eastern Washington University. Our program is responsible for Get Lit, Washington State's longest-running annual literary festival. We host dozens of free and low-cost readings, craft classes, panel discussions, a full book fair, and more every April in downtown Spokane. This year, we're thrilled to be joined by Tessa Hulls, Willie Vlodden, and Keisha Kuipers, alongside 60 other talented writers from across our region and beyond. You can find a full schedule of all in-person and virtual events, along with information about all of our festival authors, by visiting our website, getlitfestival.org. Now I'd like to welcome Mackenzie Draper, GetLit's Assistant Coordinator, to introduce today's event.
Thanks, Kate. We're here for The Art of Writing a Picture Book, a discussion about the ins and outs of picture book creation. Authors Annette Bay Pimentel, Annie Bailey, Laurel Neme, and Melissa Seron Richardson have written books that span a wide range of topics, including biographies, the natural world, and cultural literacy. They'll talk through how they find topics that resonate with young readers, collaborate with illustrators, and how these picture books are able to spark and cultivate a child's long-lasting relationship with literature. Before we jump into this discussion, I'll hand it back to Kate to begin introducing our authors.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Annette Bay Pimentel writes books for kids about the people and ideas that have shaped our world. Her most recent is How a Bear Became a Book, the collaboration that created Winnie the Pooh. When she's not writing at her treadmill desk, she helps administer her public library as an elected trustee. She lives in Moscow, Idaho.
Annie Bailey is an award-winning children's author whose lyrical books delight young readers and the adults who read with them. Her published works include the popular 10 Little Vehicles book board series, the bedtime board book Hush Little Hero, the humorous nature play picture book Mud, and the panda-filled picture book Pandemonium. Her honors and awards include the Keystone to Reading Elementary Book Award, Amazon Editor's Pick, and a feature on PBS Camp TV. In addition to writing, Annie is a public speaker and workshop leader who helps writers hone their craft and educators and students find greater joy in reading and writing.
Laurel Neme is a journalist and author who writes about wildlife and wild places. As a young girl, she wanted to be a large animal veterinarian and talk to animals like Dr. Dolittle. Later, she dreamed of being an animal scientist like Jane Goodall, and eventually she decided to help animals in her own way by telling their stories. She is a regular contributor to National Geographic, Manga Bay, and others. She co-hosts the Wildlife Podcast and is author of 4 books so far: Animal Investigators, How the World's First Wildlife Forensics Lab is Solving Crimes and Saving Endangered Species, Orangutan Houdini, The Elephant's New Shoe, and Giraffe, a real-life giraffe rescue. She lives in Vermont with her family, including their super smart German Shepherd who loves to do the laundry.
And last but certainly not least, Melissa Seron Richardson is an award-winning Latina children's book author and motivational speaker deeply passionate about bridging language, culture, and paradigm gaps in literature and education. Using easy-to-understand bilingual text, Melissa spreads messages of empowerment, courage, and hope for the future. Now I'll give the floor to Annette to start today's discussion.
We are so happy to be here. The 4 of us are part of a picture book critique group. We've been meeting together for 8 years now, and a whole bunch of books have come out of our group, and we all feel really passionately about picture books. And so we thought how we'd start is we will each talk about what prompted the book that we're going to share with you, and then we'll read from one of our books. So I'll start first. Picture books are really an interesting genre because there's such a marriage of text and art. The art isn't just a decoration. The art is an integral part of the experience of the child's reading. And I personally love the surprise that comes with an artist's input with my words. And my book actually started with that idea. I saw that the 100th anniversary of Winnie the Pooh was coming up. And as I was researching it, I realized how very central E.H. Shepard's art it was to my own experience as a child and to the creation of the book. And so I would like to share with you a few pages from my book, How a Bear Became a Book. And I will start this. Go. How a Bear Became a Book, the collaboration that created Winnie the Pooh. Words by Annette Bay Pimentel, Pictures by Faith Pray. And I'm starting a little bit into the book where a bear is emerging from words. Hello? Well, look what we have here. It's me, I think, but where did I come from? You started with an idea, and ideas that you think become stories you tell, which become words you write, which become books everyone can read. I see I'm made of words, but how will I ever become a book? That's quite a story. Let me show you how a bear became a book. Alan Alexander Milne was an author. He wrote stories. One day he had an idea and wrote down some words about a bear. A bear? Where? Oh, me. The words lingered on the page, waiting, 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 waiting. Wait, what am I waiting for? Waiting for readers' eyes, of course, for people to read you alive. You're people, you could read me. True, but some words need even more. Words in song lyrics need music. I'm full of hums, but am I a song? Words in scripts need actors. You never can tell, but I don't feel much like a script. And some words need pictures. Why? What do pictures do? Pictures illustrate ideas. They introduce new characters. Maybe someone who needs a little snack? Pictures show what's not in the words. I like the sound of pictures. Editors help words find their pictures. Could they help me find honey? Because that would be delicious. An editor read Alan's words and right away thought of Ernest Shepard. Ernest who? Ernest Shepard. He was an illustrator. He drew pictures of honey, I hope. Years before, Alan had seen pictures by Ernest. Before me? Long before. And Alan liked Ernest's pictures? Not at all. What on earth do you see in this man? Alan had asked the editor. Oh, bother. So the editor handed Alan's words to other illustrators. They drew pictures to go with Alan's words. Too busy, too frilly, too fancy. Not me at all. Not very well illustrated, sighed Alan. I could dig a very deep pit, and we could put a pot of honey at the bottom and catch an illustrator. Silly old bear, no digging. The editor returned to Ernest. I knew it would be him. Ernest read the words and thought about them. Then he visited Alan, sketchbook in hand. A curve, a squiggle, a blur of fuzz. That drawing reminds me of something, but I can't think what. Oh, bear, it's you, or soon will be, anyway. And I am going to stop right there in the middle of my book, and I'm going to turn it over to Annie. Annie, can you tell us about what prompted your book and then share some of the book with us?
Yes. I'm just setting a timer so I don't talk too long. Um, I I might, if I were to pick a theme for what my books um, kind of deal with, I would pick joy. I am always looking for joyful and magical moments to write a book around. Those are the things that I kind of look for. And mud in particular, I wrote this book because we had a huge pile of dirt delivered to our house. And my kids went out. I have four boys. My kids went out there and they were looking at this pile of dirt and they were fascinated. And soon they were climbing in it and they were picking the dirt up and throwing it at each other. And they were creating all sorts of fun little creative games. And as I watched them, I just kind of got caught up in the moment of just the magic of what happened, just watching their creative play and the joy that they had. And I just wanted to cram all that into a book somehow. And that became Mud. So I'll read a bit of Mud. And if I have time, I'll tell you a little bit about a book I have coming out as well. We'll see if there's time. But I'll read you Mud. My books tend to be very short. so it's not going to take very long. But this is Mud, words by Annie Bailey, pictures by Jen Porras. And my book starts on the end papers, which is a little different. But drip, drop, splosh, squish, squash, squish, squash. Okay. And when I read this to younger kids, I tell them to watch for this little cat on every page. I think each page is not on there, the end papers. Because when my boys were young, they had a cat that would follow them everywhere. And just, it was very, patient and long suffering and endured all their shenanigans. I had to have a cat in here. So this is my cat Laddie in here. Gloopy, gloppy, gorgeous mud. Oozy, smoozy, soupy mud. Stomp it, poke it, squeeze it, whack it, pack it in bricks and stack it. Heave it high and watch it splat. Throw it at your sleeping cat? No, no, not the cat. Never ever at the cat. The cat says, meow. Serve the specials of the day in your mucky mud cafe. Pies and donuts, squishy stew, decorated. Just make sure you never chew it. You'll regret it if you do it. Blah. When you tire of your cooking and you're sure that no one's looking, whoosh, smack, ash, oops, sorry, whoosh, smash, ack, bash, flump, clash, yikes, crash. Little sis has perfect aim. Time to play a game. Paint a portrait of your cat. Sculpt a hairdo or a hat. Dig a murky, marshy lake. Slither through it like a snake. Make an angel slip and slide. Jump and roll and swim and glide. Dinner's ready. Come and get it. Hurry, kiddos. Wait a minute. Mother jumps behind the screen. Don't come in until you're clean. Grab the hose and let it fly. Water dance in the sky. Blurble, squirble, blop and glop. Squilchy, squelchy, slop and flop. Scrub-a-dub, I'll clean again. Time to go inside. But then, drip, drop, splish, splosh, squish, squash, squish, squash. I'm a big fan of getting kids outdoors in nature. So I just have this little activity kit that I have made a bunch of activities that relate to the book, getting out in nature and things. So anyone that wants to download, it says free with every book, but anyone is welcome to download that. So you can pause the recording and grab that. And I think I have just a minute where I can talk about Pandemonium. So Pandemonium is a book. It's not out yet. It's pre-order right now. You can pre-order. Of course, it's not. I have to press down. But Pandemonium is a book where a large panda family tries to take the perfect family picture. And I created this book because just growing up, I was in a large family and trying to get a family picture of all of us kids together, looking nice and no one poking each other or fighting and everyone smiling was just a ridiculous feat. And then to add on top of that, my mother really loved animals. And so several family pictures, she tried to have us also all holding an animal, and that was pure chaos. So one day as an adult, when I was fresh off my own family picture drama, I saw a video fly by on Facebook of a panda facility, and they had all these little pandas, cubs, and they were trying to take a picture to commemorate all the cubs, and it was chaos. And I thought, oh, I'll just combine, the chaos of family pictures and pandas to come up with Pandemonium. So I'll just read just a bit for you. I don't think I'll have time to do it all. Pandas scrub until they're clean. Comb and curl and primp and preen. Ties, hair bows, all precise. Hurry while we still look nice. Pandas, pandas, picture please. Pandas on chairs and knees. Pandas and call out cheese. Hold your breath and click. Panda sneeze. And so then it goes on and on. And of course, there's chaos and pandemonium. So anyway, those are my books. And I think I'm turning it over to Laurel next to talk about your books, where they came from.
Hi. And like Annie, I find joy in my books, but I focus on animals and I've always loved animals. So I tend to tune into stories about them. And giraffes are one of my favorites. So I'd heard about this rescue from multiple sources and it really struck a chord. I think because around the globe we're seeing big changes in weather patterns due to climate change, and including in my home state of Vermont, where we've experienced devastating flooding. And so, to me, this story, The Giraffe, which is a real life giraffe rescue, reminds me of how much we can do when we pull together, which is also what I saw uh, in Vermont as communities were really pulling together. So, let me share and read my book. Um, and share this. Okay. A Siwa was part of a herd of 8 rare giraffes that lived on a bit of land, a peninsula, that jutted into a big lake in the middle of Kenya, a country on the African continent. Every day, the herd roamed around the peninsula, wandering from tree to tree, savoring the soft breeze, eating whenever they pleased, serene, safe, satisfied, until the rains came. Water soaked the soil. It destroyed the trees. It flooded the land. The giraffes circled their ever shrinking home, famished, fearful, frail. A Siwa searched for food over a hill, across a vale, into a marshy meadow. But the rising waters rushed in behind her, dividing the peninsula into 2 islands. Soon she was separated from her herd and scared. Alone, Asiwa trembled at every sound: snakes in the brush, warthogs in the grass, hippos and crocodiles near shore. She missed her herd. From afar, worried wildlife rangers tracked the growing catastrophe. They had to move the giraffes to the mainland, fast. If only giraffes could swim. The rangers, the rangers huddled, befuddled. At last, an idea bubbled to the top: a raft. They tinkered with designs: a flat base, flotation to go from place to place, and tall sides with a diagonal brace. They towed it to Asiwa first and tried to coax her onto it, but she was afraid. It was too strange. The rangers scattered a trail of treats: pellets and seeds, grassy weeds, and her all-time favorite, acacia pods and leaves. Asiwa gobbled the feast, but she would not step onto the raft. The water rose higher and higher. Her tiny island got smaller and smaller. They were running out of time. The rangers had one option left: sedate Asiwa to make her sleepy. But they hesitated. A lot could go wrong if she lay down in the wrong spot or for too long. After planning for every possible risk, they tracked down Asiwa. The dart struck Asiwa. She staggered into the bush, wobbly, weak, woozy. The rangers followed close behind. The moment Asiwa's legs buckled, they raced to her side. Within seconds, they prepared Asiwa for the journey. Socks in her ears to shush scary sounds, a blindfold around her eyes to calm her down, and a harness to help guide her around. Moments later, they woke her up, and Asiwa scrambled to a stand. Relaxed, Asiwa let the rangers lead her. With noises muffled, she shuffled through the scrub, onto a narrow path, to the shore. Carefully, she stepped onto the raft, calm, curious, courageous. Rangers tugged the raft to a refuge on the mainland. Asiwa teetered and tottered. She poked her head over the high walls. A breeze brushed her face. The sun warmed her back. Over the next 4 months, one by one, rangers ferried the rest of the herd, which included a new member, a newborn calf named Noel. Together, Asiwa and the herd explored their new home. Every day, they strolled through the savannah at ease, waltzing on knobby knees, nibbling thorny trees, delighting in the sweet taste of acacia leaves. And there's a lot of back matter with photos of the actual rescue.
Wonderful. We'll pass it off to Melissa now.
Okay, well, I first want to just start off by saying that I think I have read all of these books more times than any other parent ever will when reading them to their children as a critique group member. And I still love hearing them every single time. I am just so thrilled to be part of the critique group that I am part of. And I just want to point out to anyone that is considering being a picture book author that as you know, Annie and Laurel and Annette have pointed out their reasons for what inspired their books. It's also just living their everyday lives because Annie writes music. And you can tell because she's amazing at rhyme, and I could never do that. And Laurel has been all over Africa and met all kinds of amazing people and has an incredible perspective. And Annette has traveled all over the world with her family and is so good at finding the heart of a story and what makes things interesting to other people. And so just by living your life and being who you are, you can figure out how to have your own narrative voice as a writer. So my little thing for this book that I'm about to read is I am a sister to 4 brothers and a mother to 2 sons, and I have spent a lot of time at skate parks and watching kids fall down and have to get back up and watching what it takes to have to let go in a sense of letting failure define them in a negative way and um, allowing what at first seems like failure to inform who you then become. If you don't give up and if you keep going and not letting negativity define who you are as a person and not letting anybody else define you either. So that became a theme that I saw as I was spending so much time at skate parks. And then also along with that, I chose the main character of my book to be a girl because women in the skateboarding culture are often also told who they can and cannot be. And also the same for minority groups, which I am mixed race. My mom is Caucasian, my dad is Chicano, and so I have a lot of people who try to tell me who I should and should not be all the time. And the importance of the message of nobody gets to decide that but you. So let me share my screen and introduce you to this book that is my second book called 5 Words That Are Mine. There is a mixture of Spanish and English in this book. I did intentionally choose Spanish words that hopefully would be easy for non-Spanish speakers to pronounce and to infer meaning. Again, relying on, as Annette had pointed out, relying on illustrators to do some of that heavy lifting also. So here we go. And let's see if my computer will let me scroll through. We test drove this multiple times. And now it's just going to be stubborn. So hold on just 1 second. Oh, there we go. Okay. Let me also. Today I'm hunting words about me. 5 palabras. Teacher says they should fit just right, like my favorite kicks. The first one's easy. I am relámpago. Sidewalk lightning bolting down the street. Everyone thunders behind me. Too slow. My wheels click-clack down the sidewalk with the swoosh-swoosh glide of my legs and feet. I'm feeling slick, ready for a trick. Kickflip, vamos. Pump, jump, flip, whoop. Slam. Some kids throw words my way, but they're not mine. They'll see next time. I know where to find my next word. I curve and carve, higher, higher. Ollie, nollie, higher, higher. My board's got pop, and so do I. Push us down, we'll bounce back up. I am relámpago, pop. My tummy grumbles, time for home. One last trick. Kickflip, vamos. Pump, jump, flip, whoop. Slam. And these are the kids that are teasing and making fun of her. And if you can see this one, she has broken her board. I try to leave those words behind. Try. And you see the words are following her. Also, I want to point out, if you look in the upper left-hand corner, the illustrator for this book, Auntie Rivera Sonda, she included differently abled people at the skate park, which I also really loved. Menudo steams. Poppy's hands roll tortillas tight and hot. He takes one look and rolls me up too. A little taquito me. 2 spaces left. I am relámpago, pop, taquito. Outside of Papi's hug, palabras roll around everything. They snap and sing and susurra. Some palabras I like, some I don't. Maybe those kids were right. I throw my board away with a slam. I am relámpago, pop, taquito, slam. Papi kisses my head. A fall is not a fail, he winks. Tú puedes. But those ugly words won't leave me alone. They buzz in my head, fighting for the last spot. No, a fall is not a fail. I'll find a way to try again. These words are not mine. I won't let them stay. I am slam. You can see her dad is fixing her board. Papi's sonrisa melts those other words away. He knows who I am, and so do I. I am never give in. I am fall down, get up. Just like my board, I am stronger than ever. I am relámpago, pop, taquito, slam, stronger. And then at the end, there's a glossary of Spanish and skateboarding terms. So, all right, I'll turn the time back over to Annette.
Thank you. I echo Melissa. That is so fun to hear these. And I noticed people clapping at the end of them. We have a tradition in our critique group. After someone reads their manuscript, no matter how early of a draft is, we all clap for each other. And that's something that I love very much. But I have seen these manuscripts in many early phases, and it's a joy to see them come to fruition. And we wanted to talk a little bit about what we feel like are how our picture books are connecting with the young readers. And there's a very famous quote from a theorist, Rudine Sims Bishop, in her article, Mirrors, Windows, and Sliding Glass Doors, that I'm going to read and then we'll respond to what she had to say. But she comes up with some metaphors for books in general that I think are particularly true about picture books and books for young readers. She says, books are sometimes windows offering views of worlds that may be real or imagined, familiar or strange. These windows are also sliding glass doors, and readers have only to walk through in imagination to become part of whatever world has been created or recreated by the author. When lighting conditions are just right, however, a window can also be a mirror. Literature transforms human experience and reflects it back to us. And in that reflection, we can see our own lives and experiences as part of the larger human experience. So thinking about those metaphors of windows as books, as windows, doors, or mirrors, I'm just wondering what all of you think about how those metaphors relate to your own books. And I'll just start. Faith Prey illustrated the part of the book that I read to you, and she had noticed that Shepard used windows a lot in his artwork, and so she put a lot of windows into our book, and I think that that's so appropriate. It's thematically appropriate because this is a chance for kids to look into the back room of how books come together, about how they're made, not only in the past, but it's very much about today's publishing process. But I think it's our particular book also, I hope it will function as a mirror for kids. And all of us have moments when we're asked to work with someone else, and it's not always a comfortable fit, especially at the beginning. And it's not always easy to imagine why we need someone else's input in the book. And our book, I think, is also reflecting back to kids this idea that together we can make something bigger than what we can make by ourselves. But I love trying to think about, like, am I doing a good enough job of engaging the child so that they'll want to look at this book as like, what does this have to do with me? But I'm curious about what the rest of you think about how your book, the idea of mirrors, doors, and windows relate to your books.
Um, I
Yeah.
just wanted to first say that I agree with Annette and Melissa, just as far as the wonderful words that they said about everyone. And I loved hearing all your stories again. I feel all the time that I am so incredibly lucky to know all of you and work with all of you. I just think you're all amazing. And that quote is super interesting. When I think about my book Mud, I kind of hope that it can be all those things to readers. For me, it's a mirror. When I read it, I'm just reminded of growing up. I would go to my grandpa's farm in the summers, and it was some of my best childhood memories there. Just being outdoors and just exploring. I just loved it so much. And so for me, it's very much her. And I kind of worry nowadays that there are a lot of kids that are very disconnected with the current world around them. They're very immersed in the virtual world and wherever that takes them, but they're not necessarily in the here and now and in the real world around them, and especially also in nature and taking a part of just the amazing things that it has to offer. And so I really hope that my book Mud can also be a window into the joy of just being outside and creative play, and also a sliding door that maybe they'll see that and they'll want to go outside and take part. Uh, I was reminded of an experience recently where I was with my family and we were at an extended gathering, and I noticed that there was a stream at the park we were at. And I was so excited to call my, nieces and nephews over and be like, hey, there's a stream. And they looked at it and they were like, so there's a stream. And I was like, Like, because I spent, in at the farm, that was like there were these irrigation streams and ditches, and I would play in those things for hours. And so I was like, come on, we're going in the stream. And I was showing them sticks, and you can make boats out of these and leaves too, and you can race them and take this rock and plunk it in there and watch it spray. And these rocks, see if you can cross this stream without falling in. And soon they were engaging and having fun. And that's what my greatest hope for this book is that it will remind everyone of the joy of the outdoors and creative play, and hopefully they'll open that sliding door and head out. So
I'll I'll echo everyone else. I mean, it's so fun to hear these books again in their final form and also see how much they resonate. And I think that's because they're sort of windows into places that we all feel familiar with or want to go to, or are mirrors to our own lives, like the pandemonium and the picture taking, and and using mud, and so I just it's so fun to hear these books. And for the giraffe, for me, it's really a window or door into a place that kids might not be familiar with. And it shows them that this wider world, in this case, Kenya and the African continent, isn't as different as they might think. And as to mirrors, I think that there are several universal truths within this story. And even though I wasn't looking for them at all when I wrote it, in the background, it could be in part why I was attracted to this story. And one of those elements is that feeling of being alone and that isolation when Asiwa, the giraffe, is stranded, and how often you think you're alone in your problem. And I think that's another reason I like this story, is because not every problem has to be solved by yourself, and you can ask for help, or how working in a group can help and lead to solutions that you'd never be able to carry out yourself. And to me, this shows how a small group of people can make a real difference. And it shows kids the power of people taking action. So,
Yeah. So I think we're all kind of agreeing in the same way of it. For me, it's kind of like, I hope that my book is whatever the reader needs it to be. If you need a mirror, if you're a Latino child that needs to see themselves in books, then I hope that my books are that for you. Or an adult like myself. If you're a Latino adult who never saw themselves in literature and needs to see that to heal something inside of yourselves, I hope my book can be that. If you have a desire to be part of a community that maybe you weren't born into, and you need kind of an in, that I hope these books with the bilingual language, with some of the cultural inferences, will be that opening for you to allow that to kind of come back and forth. And then also with the sliding door, if you need something that that gives you maybe permission in a way to step through into something that you've never stepped into before, that's there for you as well. And that is something that's very clear in all of my books, and it's in my bio that I want my books to be a bridge. So I think more than anything, I do hope that it opens up that sliding door to people who want to be more connected. My first book, The Last Slice, is about a Mexican holiday tradition. My second book, has a Latina character. And then my third book that is coming out this May and is on available for pre-order is My Poppy's Hands. And this one I definitely hope to be both a window and a sliding door, because it's a book about Latino laborers and the work that they do to build our country and their homes and their children's futures. And I just really hope, the illustrations are just incredible that Adele has done. He is a Cuban American illustrator. And to hopefully invite people to say, hey, look, there are people who maybe have a different skin color and maybe speak differently than you do, but who are people just like you are, and we're all really working for the same thing, for the bettering of our communities and our children's futures. And so yeah, I hope that my books are just this magical wand that can be whatever you need them to be, but that inspire you to go further into yourself, into someone else's life, or to hold hands with someone and move forward together.
I'm so glad you showed the art in my puppy's hands, Melissa. And that was also another reason that we wanted to share our books, is because in picture books, the art is really central to it. And so I want to pose the question, and we're going to just have this be a more free-flowing conversation, so we won't go in any particular order. But how early in the process of all of us are just writers and not illustrators. So how early in the your writing process do you start thinking about illustrations? And how does thinking about illustration show up in your manuscripts?
I think for me, at the start, when I'm brainstorming an idea, I might have fleeting images that come to mind, but really at the outline stage, I get pretty serious about thinking about what's on the page, because at the outline stage, I'm thinking about what text is going to go on the left and what text is going to go on the right. And would it, because I'm going through the different spreads and I'm thinking about the different page turns. And so, I mean, it's not art in like actual art, it's more blobs. Like this spread needs a big blob with the text. And this spread, there's going to be text here and maybe some blobs, something like that. Yeah, it's more blobs, but I have to kind of know where I think everything is going to go, so I get the rhythm right. Because as Melissa mentioned, I have a musical background, and so the rhythm and the sound of a story is super important to me. And I can't really get that right, especially the page turns where you have that silence that is part of the rhythm. And so I want to get all that right. So I would say I think about it, but I also know that once it goes to the editor and the illustrator, it's going to probably completely change somehow. I mean, sometimes it's very similar, but other times it might be very different. So for me, yeah, I would say the outline stage, I start really thinking about it a lot, but just in general blobbish terms. So
I totally relate to that idea of the blob, because I too really do not know what I'm going to see on the page. And it was kind of an issue with this book that I shared, because it's a complicated structure. And I knew there was like some bear kind of talking, who was somehow made of words. And I wasn't really clear how it was. And the first artist that they tried to hire said it's impossible. And I thought, well, I don't know what it looks like, but luckily they found someone. But I don't think about what goes on which side of the page, but I do think a lot about page turns, because I feel that's like where surprises and pacing come. So for me, it's kind of a general blobbiness, but then I know where where I think the page turns will be. So.
I like that blobbiness aspect of it. And I admit, for me, illustrations are really a separate process because I often write nonfiction. So I do have images in my head, but they're the images of photos and of the real thing. And so as I'm writing the book, I really don't think about illustrations, but like both of you, I'm thinking about page turns. And when I write in spreads, and there are usually about 14 spreads. So I make sure that there's a new action or idea on each page, which, as you said, helps with the pacing. And it also means that there's something new to illustrate. And, so that the pictures look different, and that the story moves along in a pace, in a way that's really engaging. And I do have to say that one of my favorite my all-time favorite moment of writing a picture book is seeing the first illustrations. And I mean, nothing compares as seeing what somebody else who read your words and took it and, you know, came up with this. And I have to say that for the giraffe, the illustrator, Melissa Paganelli, did such a wonderful job, not only in conveying emotion without anthropomorphizing a Siwa and the other giraffes, but I also loved how she created this movement across the pages with multiple pictures on certain pages. And I also really like the color palette. And when you go to Kenya, the terrain has this special sparkle and the sunsets just glow because of this dust in the air. And her illustrations really captured that light. And so I just love that moment of first seeing it.
Yeah, I guess I'm stuck last. So I just have to I get stuck with like, yeah, what everybody else said. Aren't you all so glad you invited me on this thing? So I could just be like, yep, what they said. But I mean, I feel like to a certain extent, yeah, like you just kind of have this vague idea, and that's an important part of the process because if you are too specific in your head as a picture book author who is not an illustrator, um, you are bound for heartbreak and a lot of difficult conversations because you are not allowed to boss around the illustrator or the art director. So it's in your best interest to not be too like sketched out in your brain of like how everything is going to go. That said, you do need to make sure that you are giving the illustrator opportunities to engage the reader with every page turn. So I was telling somebody yesterday that for picture books, if you were going to compare the structure of a picture book to the structure of like a novel, every two-page spread is a chapter. And you have to have emotional development, character development, plot development. You have to have all of these things that happen in a two-page spread. And you have to, each page turn needs to be different visually, and you have to give that opportunity to the illustrator. And sometimes we do make work hard for the illustrators, just like Annette had with her bear. I had in the last slice. It's about the Mexican rosca, which is a dessert that is eaten on Three Kings Day, and there's a little tiny baby Jesus that is hidden inside the dessert. And that's the crux of the story, is this little girl who's terrified she's going to swallow the baby Jesus. Okay, giving that job to an illustrator of like, yeah, there's a minor plastic deity inside of this dessert and make it funny, but not irreverent. Let's not like cross those lines, but let's still make it engaging for readers. And you guys, she totally delivered. We have like here where Marta is trying to imagine what it would be like to swallow the little Niño Dios. I didn't imagine how that was going to look. And look what she did. Oh my gosh. And then picturing how like maybe the Virgin Mary might be upset if Marta swallowed her little baby boy. And she did such a good job of illustrating that. Um, and so trust your illustrator. Well, that is zoomed in. Okay. I'm gonna just back up. Um, you have to trust the illustrator that they are professionals and they know what they're doing. And there's a reason that these publishers have hired them. And just focus on your words and not too much on what the illustrator is going to be doing with them, other than giving them as much opportunity as possible to play.
Yeah, great answers. And Melissa, we have you go last because you're so good at summing it all up. That's what it is. I remember early on in our critique group, and I think it was either Annie or Melissa talked about picture book language. And I feel like all of you are so good at that picture book language that is an invitation to the illustrator without being bossy about all the details. So that's something I really love about all of your work. So I thought that for our final question, we could just talk about how we view our role as book creator and ask, like, what do you hope that your picture books will actually do out in the world? And I think we should mix it up and let Melissa go very first for this one. So,
Oh, Annette, you're so kind. Well, really, I feel like the windows, mirrors, sliding doors is kind of my answer for that. Like, I really, really do hope that my books will help people who are not accustomed to seeing themselves in fiction. Someone's going to ring my doorbell. My dog's going to bark. That's what you get for letting me go first. Oh my gosh. Um, can't control when people want to come to the, what is going on? Okay. Um, so allowing people who are not used to seeing themselves represented in literature see themselves. And then allowing there to be like a bridge for people to step into a space that they're not used to being invited into, so that there can be more understanding. I feel just as a Latina in the United States at this current time, there is, I just want to push back against division in every way possible. And I hope my books can do that.
thank you, Melissa. That was beautiful. Laurel, do you want to talk about how you view your role as a picture?
Sure. And, I think my role is really just to tell good stories that kids enjoy reading. And if I'm lucky, they'll inspire the reader to take an interest in nature and maybe teach them something about the animals and the environment that we live in. And my hope is that, they share sort of my sense of wonder and a desire to protect these creatures and the world that we all share. Because I think even though I often write about faraway places, there's so much we can do just in our own communities. And hopefully these books can inspire that and those parallels.
Thanks, Laurel. That was beautiful. Annie, to you.
I would say when I think about, why I write, I think about joy and connection. Um, Someone mentioned, I used to never think of this as a talent till someone mentioned it. They said that it is a talent to be able to see the joy in things, and help others feel it. And I thought, oh, I can grab a hold of that now and feel like that is something, that I have the talent to look and see joy and try to put joy out in the world. And I think that will be especially more and more important as we go on, as, the world feels heavier and heavier, that the ability to still feel joy, to help others feel joy, I think is so important right now and is going to be so important. And then just connection. I want to help connect kids and the people that love serve them. I want them I want to create moments where they can laugh and journey and learn and feel together and just create those bonds. As Melissa said, there's so much division, and I want to put connection out into the world. I think that's an incredibly important thing right now. So that's what I hope to accomplish as a picture book creator.
Yeah, yeah. We got to feel some of that joy with those books that you read. So my books are mostly picture book biographies. I write about people usually people you probably have never heard of before, who did something that has somehow shaped or transformed the world. And in the book that I share, it's about how people created a very beloved, iconic character, and also about how they helped shape the publishing world. But I was recently trying to think, like, is there a common thread through my books besides this idea that they're about people? And I realized that I think for me, it comes down to this conviction that I have that the way the world is right now is not the way that it needs to be, and that change is possible. And for me, writing for children I love doing that because I hope that kids will realize that this world that is in so many ways unjust or unfair or unbeautiful or unjoyful, is not necessarily the way that it needs to be, and that they have power as agents to act and to help shape the world that they live in. I know that all of us are very grateful to be in the picture book world. We came at it through many different avenues, but for all of us, it's been a great place to find a way to take the words that we all love writing and add this other beautiful element of illustration that reaches people in, lets our words and the illustrations together reach people in a new and a different way. So it's been a pleasure to get to talk about it with these very good writing friends that I have.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Annette. Thanks, Annie, Laurel, and Melissa. Joy really was the word of the hour today. That was just so great. I had a big goofy smile throughout most of the event, just enjoying the stories and the gorgeous illustrations. It's so nice to remember how fun children's books are, especially picture books, and how important they are as well for building a passion, of course, for lifelong reading and learning. And then, of course, what Melissa touched on as well of how important it is to allow kids to see themselves represented on the page. So thank you all, and thank you for giving us that advice and giving us more insight on what inspired your work and how your books came to be. We obviously have a lot of writers in our audience, and so I think this is going to be very inspiring to all of them. So thank you again. It was just delightful. It was really, really wonderful. Thanks also to Mackenzie, GetLit's assistant coordinator, for all of their hard work today behind the scenes leading up to this event. You did not get to see Mackenzie again before we took off, but I know they echo my joy and delight in this event and in revisiting our joy for growing up as readers. We both had that same goofy smile, I can tell you. So thank you all again for bringing so much joy to us both. And thank you to student assistant Adam Westerholm and all of our MFA interns who helped to make the festival possible. To everyone watching at home, I hope that you'll join us for more festival events, both in person and here on Zoom. I also want to remind everyone at home that we have links embedded in all of our event descriptions that will lead you directly to our indie bookstore Aunties so that you can purchase or pre-order all of the books by today's writers. Thank you to Aunties for being our official festival bookseller. Please visit our website, getlitfestival.org, for our full schedule and more information about all of our authors, including today's 4 talented writers. Thank you again for joining us, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.